Hi there, this is NFP's Big Question video series where we like to bring in subject matter experts, whether internally or externally, to answer questions that are on the minds of our clients, especially during the climate of COVID-19 that we are in now. My name is Jenna Johnson. I head up our restaurant program with NFP based out of San Francisco Bay Area. We have close ties with the Golden Gate Restaurant Association, and of course, what's on all of our restaurant clients' mind is kind of what is going to be going on? What does their new world look like? Here I've brought Aaron Ginsberg from Welcome Conference. Aaron, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm the managing partner of the Welcome Conference, which is a hospitality organization that started about 7 years ago. Our whole idea has been to shine a light on the hospitality industry and the many inspiring stories that happen within it. There are chef conferences and food events nationwide and all around the globe, but very little that focuses on the hospitality side of the equation, which up until months ago was increasingly more and more important than just what's on your plate. And so it's been our goal to bring those leaders in the hospitality world together, whether it's chefs, restaurant owners, sommeliers, or just someone that's inspiring us onto a stage to help lift up the industry. Obviously, a lot of that has changed, being a group that has had 1,000-person events multiple times a year. We're pivoting along with the rest of the restaurant world right now.
Of course. So kind of more along the lines of that is, can you share with us the details of how the current environment is affecting restaurants from your perspective, both short-term and long-term?
Absolutely. Prior to my joining the Welcome Conference full-time, I worked within restaurants. I was at the Make It Nice hospitality group, which represented or managed the Nomad, Love in Madison Park, Davies and Brook, and Made Nice throughout New York City, Vegas, LA, and London. And all of those cities are just absolutely ravaged right now, specifically when it comes to the restaurant world. And we're doing our best to keep in touch with that world because it's a really tight-knit community. And when I'm talking about the restaurant world, I'm predominantly talking about the independent restaurant owners. There are obviously millions of restaurant employees that are not within the independent restaurant group. But if you look at the restaurant groups that are independent in themselves, it's about 11 million people that work in those groups. And they're, we're seeing an insane number of them out of work right now because restaurants have very few options to exist in this current climate. They're either open with drastically reduced operations, so they're going into delivery only models or takeout only models, and they're doing a fraction of the business that they would have done before. Or they are pivoting entirely. Maybe they're a fine dining restaurant and now they're doing $12 rice bowls, which barely even covers any of their margin. Or they're just closed entirely, and that obviously leads to furloughs. I have friends that are restaurant owners that have up to 20 restaurants and have furloughed 2,000 employees with one fell swoop, which is not something that anyone wants to have to do. I think the amazing thing for us is to see how people are pivoting and how people are rallying. We started a show not too long ago called Weekly Specials, directly ripped off from John Krasinski's Some Good News show. But I think the impetus behind it was there is good news happening out there, and the restaurant industry is in such dire straits right now, but it's important for us to all remember that our colleagues are out there and they are all cut from the same cloth. They're all, having hospitality run through their bloods, and they're exhibiting that right now, even if in the darkest of times. And so let's not forget that while things are dark and things are, scary, there's some pretty, magical moments happening. Whether it's people converting their kitchens to be operations for World Central Kitchen, Jose Andres' organization, or they're dedicating their teams to feeding frontline healthcare workers, or they're doing to-go CSA and dinner boxes and doing Friday night bingo. which a friend of ours we see in Seattle is doing. So I think despite the darkness, the amazing thing is how the community is coming together and finding ways to still bring a smile to folks' faces, while creatively providing even a little bit of employment for some of their staff.
Absolutely. Well, and kind of back to the tight-knit community that the restaurant industry is I've noticed even here is that whenever there's been any type of disaster where people need help, I mean, most recently for California is the fires. And I note that my restaurant clients, as well as connections and friends, they were the first to respond. They were the first to start putting together drives and donations. So what are some of the programs that are out there currently now to help the restaurant workers?
One of the, I think, most important ones right now is the Independent Restaurant Coalition, the IRC. My partner in the Welcome Conference, Will Goodara, was one of the founding members of that. And if you go to their webpage, saverestaurants.com, you'll find just some incredible names that are behind it, but also some really alarming but helpful statistics. I think it's, it's the restaurant world has not been one that has had a singular voice that rallies everyone together. It's always had a diverse collection of hundreds, if not thousands, of different voices, and I think that's what's made it special. But when it comes to representation in times like this, when it comes to having a voice in government, that's where independent restaurants have never been that successful. Because we've never had to. So I think what this is really forcing the independent restaurant owners to do is to collect, to rally, to get on a Zoom call with 100 different restaurant owners from around the country and try and make their opinions, their concerns, their suggestions heard, such that lobbyists in DC can actually have a difference made with some of the laws that are being passed. That's one example. Roar is another one. There are a number of organizations around the country that are doing some really inspiring things, from Giving Kitchen in Atlanta, that's helping Georgia restaurant workers with rent, with medical care, medical expenses, with a variety of different grants. There's Southern Smoke, based out of Houston, but they serve nationwide. There's World Central Kitchen, which Jose Andres' organization, which just continues to impress everybody. There to speak to disasters. I mean, they were the ones that went to Puerto Rico and provided meals for everyone after that, the terrible earthquake there. The thing about World Central Kitchen is I think just last week, said that they're going to start buying meals from restaurants to then serve to those in need. So not only making the food, which is what they've been doing a lot, but actually buying them as a way to put money back into the restaurants while simultaneously still feeding healthcare workers and other frontline workers. So their operations continue to grow. And so I think that every day we're seeing that there are new initiatives, whether they're on a local, regional, or international level. But you're also seeing people band together and form stronger single initiatives, and I think that's the beautiful byproduct of this kind of dark time right now. And I think that what's tough is that as an independent restaurant owner, you're going from a place of never having a voice to needing to have a voice, and that's where when it comes to how the government is handling things and loans and PPP. Folks are scared, and folks are feeling left out because they've not been a part of those discussions before. They've always been on the outskirts, and you don't get into the restaurant industry because you want to be wildly successful from a financial perspective. You get into it because you care about people, because you care about making experiences that can last a lifetime. And a lot of folks right now, they're just hanging by a thread, if they're hanging at all.
Right. Any kind of advice for our restaurant clients as far as what they can do from a business perspective to help protect themselves and ensure survival?
Yeah, I think it's something it's definitely important. If people aren't getting involved with the IRC, they should. And getting involved doesn't mean, putting in hours. It just means paying attention, signing petitions, getting, the newsletter, just being plugged in. Every additional voice to what they are doing only helps, spread the word. Simultaneously, I think it's, what's tough is there's not one solution. Every restaurant operates so differently. If you're a restaurant that is a fine dining restaurant that has 100 people that work in your restaurant and you rely on $200-300 tasting menus, it's really hard for you to pivot. It's hard for you to all of a sudden do takeout. But maybe you can become a CSA for your farmers. Maybe you can band together with World Central Kitchen and find a way to get a grant so that you can allow folks to at least come back to work part-time. It really is figuring out what works best for each individual restaurant, and then how you can see a future with that model for a couple months. Because look, I'm just outside of New York City, and New York City is not getting back to normal anytime soon. While restaurants in Georgia or in Texas or in Florida or in Colorado might be opening sooner than later, they're not going to be opening with 100% occupancy. They're going to be opening with 25%, 50%. So they're not going to be making their numbers from before. And even if they can have 25 or 50%, are diners going to be comfortable going into an environment like that and putting themselves potentially at risk? And so I think there's a lot of factors. And I think in the beginning of all of this, everyone was trying to take it day by day. And now we see that we're impacted by this for quite some time. And so whatever solution someone has, it's what can you do for the next few months, next 6 months, that provides some sense of proactivity, but not being locked into anything because things are changing, every single day.
Thanks again to Aaron Ginsberg of Welcome Conference for joining us and providing insights and recommendations on what our restaurant clients and employees can do and try and weather this difficult time. Remember to check out welcomeconference.org and saverestaurants.com for more information of some of the initiatives Aaron talked about. And as always, keep visiting nfp.com for all the latest updates and answers around how the current environment could be impacting your coverage and policies. From my home office in partnership with NFP, this is Jenna Johnson. Be well, stay safe.